question. When you're evaluating editors up front, how do you go about that process of selecting editors and matching them with authors?
So first want to know, I'm not going to send a project to an editor who I don't think is going to be a fan of this kind of book, right? So I'm first of all, I'm thinking about their taste. And when I'm taking into account their taste, it's what they've posted on Manuscript Wishlist and what's on the publisher website, saying this is what I'm looking for. I'm incorporating what they tell me at lunch. I usually am out to lunch with editors once or twice a week, sort of hearing about their list and what they want to see next and whatnot. I'm also trying to assess what they might like, but they don't know they want yet. And that's just kind of a sixth sense. You talk to people about, their political feelings. You talk to them about what movies and television shows they like. Are they a cat person, dog person? These are sort of things that inform your sense of their tastes and their style and their personality, their sense of humor, whatnot. I'm also thinking about what their imprint is looking for. So for instance, if I have an editor tell me that I'm really open to YA, but I also know that imprint is really stuffed on YA, and that publisher has recently said, okay, we really want to focus on middle grade this year. Maybe that's not the perfect editor for this project. So there's a ton of stuff that goes into deciding, is this editor a good person to send this project to? But beyond that, I really like, like I said, I like the editors that I work with. Everyone has slightly different styles, but really beyond that, it's a question of, does the author connect with them? Does the author feel like they have a good communication style, and is there a personal connection there? Because you can have, one editor and one author, two of which are wonderful, brilliant human beings, but their styles can just be very different. One has a really salty sense of humor and the other is just, rainbows and sunshine, and they just don't gel. Or maybe those are their two personalities and they totally do gel, and two salty people wouldn't have worked together. I mean, I think it's something that you really have to evaluate on a case-by-case basis. So I know that's sort of a all over the place answer, but it's there's a lot.
No, it makes sense. You mentioned you've got somebody this very week who's going to be chatting with editors to get kind of a sense of what their vision is for her book.
Right.
So in a situation like that, let's say that you're in a good spot where you've got, 5 different editors all clamoring, we must have this book. And the author feels very strongly that they most connected with an editor, but a different editor they don't have that feeling about is offering double the advance or some other huge perk. Would you evaluate that situation? How would you prioritize where to place the book?
Okay, so let's say, for sake of argument, you have multiple editors all offering the exact same thing, basically. Let's say the offers are comparable, so it's not really, you're not making your decision based on, who's got the better financial offer. First, I'd look at that editor's list. I feel like I'm giving away some trade secrets here, but that's okay. It's worth it. I'd look at the editor's list and I'd say, do they have a lot of projects like this on their list? Too many projects might mean that this book might get lost among a sea of similar projects. Too few might mean that, that editor doesn't have a lot of experience with this kind of book. So that's a bit of an evaluation, right? You might also look at, let's say every, most of the imprints in publishing all had their sloth picture book. And that year, everyone's got to have a sloth picture book, right? That's just the big thing. I might know that this particular editor is still looking for her sloth picture book, right? She just doesn't have the thing that is the big sloth picture book of the year from that imprint. So that might be someone I really target, because that sloth picture book that I'm going out with might be of tremendous value to that editor, because it's going to be, her lead title. It's going to be a big deal for her imprint. Whereas for someone else, they've kind of already got their sloth picture book. Yes, they want mine, but now there's going to be 2 on the list. It's not as important to them. So that's part of the evaluation as well. The other thing is sort of editorial style. So there are a number of editor and author pairs that I work with that I really adore, but one of my all-time favorite pairings is Alessandra Balzer at Balzer & Bray and Julie Murphy. So that's editor and author. Those two are besties, and they, as they're talking about their high level, marketing and editorial stuff, they're exchanging cat pictures, and I get copied on all of these emails, so I get to see it.
Very important stuff.
it just makes my day every time I see it, because they're clearly so simpatico, even though I think that they're slightly different people. So, you know, in an ideal world, that's really great to have that kind of personal connection with your editor. That's not to say that every editorial relationship needs to be that way. You can have an editor who is just perfect for you and you really jive with professionally, but you guys aren't necessarily best friends. That's totally fine. But I think that, you know, the only way to really establish that for the author is to see, you know, get the two people on the phone and see if they really connect. I try to anticipate that a little bit. You know, if I have an author who I think, you know, really takes editorial comments to heart, like, again, if they're working with me, I know that they can wrap their heads around them and get them done. But I also know that, like, oh, it takes, you know, author X, you know, a couple of days to weather editorial comments when they come in, like that, you know, she feels them very deeply. And I happen to know that this editor, God bless her, is just blunt as all get out, right? I'll probably let that author know. It's like, okay, if we want to go with, you know, editor Y, just know that her edit letters, she really doesn't mince words. Okay, so you need to be ready for that. So those are some of the things that you can sort of navigate in those relationships as well.
These are, you know, these things because you're going out to lunch with editors on a regular basis and maintaining and cultivating those relationships to keep your ear to the ground on who's looking for what, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm going out to lunch with editors, but I might also be working with them on several different projects, so I kind of know their taste, or maybe I've worked with them in the past. You know, we see each other at conferences. So you keep up these relationships with editors because, yeah, I want to know what they're looking for, what they're feeling, what they're excited about, and I want to have a good relationship with them. So, you know, if we are working together and there is a conflict, I know how they work. I know how to communicate and resolve that with them. You know.